switch it off or onto silent, even if you think you've done so already. That'd be fantastic. As I've alluded to, we have many wonderful concerts coming up over the next few months, right through till October. Next week we have the Blaze Ensemble, and then the following week we have one of our musicians from our music department, Matthew Hayburn. Many of you will have heard his commission for the Charter 825 Festival, the Gipping Weaves, which performed a couple of weeks ago. But Matthew, when he's not composing, is a piano teacher and a recitalist in the area, and I hope you can support that. And as you can see, we have organ recitals by Mark Blatchley, the inaugural concert by the Minster Brass Quintet, which will be fabulous and loud, and then welcoming back a former member of the choir, Nicholas Freestone. Nick is the organist at Worcester Cathedral, and he'll be giving a wonderful organ recital. So do please put as many of those dates in your diary as you can. But you haven't come to listen to me speak, so without any further ado, can we welcome our recitalists today, Andrew Leach and Richard Edgar-Wilson. Thank you.
Sing on, till I am filled with joy. For then my listening soul you'll move, for then my listening soul you'll move to pleasures that can never cloy. Your eyes, your mien, your tongue declare that you are music everywhere. Your eyes, your mien, your tongue declare that you are music everywhere. Pleasures invade both eye and ear, so fierce, so fierce, so fierce, so fierce the transports are they woo, and all my senses feasted are, and all my senses feasted are, though yet the treat is only sound. So I must perish by your charms unless you save me in your arms. So I must perish by your charms unless you save me in your arms.
Welcome to this celebration of Shakespeare in song. No writer has had more words set to music than William Shakespeare. As far back as 1991, the Shakespeare music catalogue listed over 20,000 items, and countless more have been written in the decades since then. So this programme features just a tiny fraction of those riches. For as the poet Robert Graves put it, the remarkable thing about Shakespeare is that he is really very good, in spite of all the people who say that he's very good. You've just heard Henry Purcell's setting of If Music Be the Food of Love, that was published in the Gentleman's Journal in June 1692, some 76 years after the bard's death. It is the first of Purcell's 3 versions of the poem, and is probably one of the better-known songs in today's programme, though the irony is that the words aren't actually by Shakespeare at all. But I wanted to include it as the poem is by someone called Colonel Henry Heveningham, who lived at Heveningham Hall on the road to Halesworth, and who in 1685 raised a troop of horse here in Ipswich to counter the Monmouth Rebellion. So the song may not be by Shakespeare, but it is clearly inspired by the Duke of Orsino's words at the start of Twelfth Night, "If music be the food of love, play on." Thomas Arne was born in Covent Garden to a family who had made money in the upholstery business. He was educated at Eton, and his various Shakespeare songs were written for stage productions, mainly those of the renowned David Garrick at Drury Lane. And Garrick, of course, made his very first professional appearance on stage here in Ipswich on the 21st of July, 1741, at a theatre in Tankard Street that sadly no longer exists. The music for Love's Labour's Lost is thought to date from 6 years later, and the source for this song is a 2-volume edition of Shakespeare's songs reprinted from manuscripts belonging to the optician, astronomer, musician, and celebrity chef William Kitchener, whose collection of 18th century Shakespearean settings was second to none. Kitchener was also the author of several influential books, including The Cook's Oracle, which rather splendidly featured the first ever recipe for potato crisps. Another of his books was The Art of Invigorating and Prolonging Life by Food, Clothes, Air, Exercise, Wine, Sleep, etc., to which is added The Pleasures of Making a Will. Well, I think that's a book I could use. two songs are setting of words from Twelfth Night, often referred to as Shakespeare's most musical play. Like Arne, the composer Roger Quilter came from a moneyed family. He was the youngest son of Sir William Cuthbert Quilter, a stockbroker, art collector, politician, and a commodore of the Royal Harwich Yacht Club, who for 10 years had the lease of Hintlesham Hall before building Bordsey Manor in 1866. Quilter Sr. established a steam-powered chain ferry at Bordsey, the forerunner of the more modest ferry that we know today, so that he could get from his house to the railway station in Felixstowe. Like Arne, the young Roger Quilter was also a product of Eton, and his 4 sets of Shakespeare songs are some of his finest works. The tender Come Away Death from 1905 was his first published song to the bard's words and was dedicated to the baritone and translator Walter Crichton, who had given the premiere of Vaughan Williams's famous Songs of Travel the previous December. Although Roger Quilter didn't spend very much time here in Suffolk, he is buried in the grand family mausoleum in the churchyard of St Mary's, Bordsey, which is well worth a visit if you're ever out that way. Charles Stanford was the preeminent composition teacher of his generation, though not all of his pupils at the Royal College of Music were enamoured by him. Ivor Gurney found him spiky and authoritarian, while Herbert Howells also had mixed feelings about his teaching, describing the hovering pencil, the caustic commentary, the surgeon-like dexterity with which the keen mind cut through to the seat of trouble, and the seraphic smile and childlike pride when the operation was over. In late August 1882, the year before he took up his post at the Royal College of Music, Stanford toured the Shakespeare sites at Stratford-upon-Avon with fellow composers Hubert Parry and Arthur Somerville. It was apparently an enjoyable day that concluded with a very fine dinner. The Rain It Raineth Every Day was written somewhat later, and despite the composer's critical eye, I think there is definitely a twinkle there in his setting of the final words of Twelfth Night.
Come away, death, and in sad cypress let me be laid. Fly away, breath, I am slain by a fair cruel maid. My shroud of white stuck all with you. Oh, prepare it, my part of death, no one so true did cherish. Not a flower sweet on my black coffin, let there be straw. Not a friend greet my poor corse, where my bones shall be thrown. A thousand sighs to say, oh, lay away, sad true love never find my grave to weep there, to weep. was and a little tiny boy with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain. A foolish thing was but a toy for the rain. It raineth every day. But when I came to man's estate with hey-ho, the wind and the rain, 'gainst knave and thief men shut their gate for the rain. It raineth every day. But when I came, alas, to wive with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, by swaggering I could never thrive for the rain. It raineth every day. A great while ago the world began with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain. But that's all one, our play is done, and we'll strive to please you every day.
Ralph Vaughan Williams was very famous for travelling around England collecting folk songs, and in December 1911 he came up to Southwold with fellow composer George Butterworth, where they collected numerous folk songs from Suffolk fishermen and other working people. Orpheus with his lute probably dates from some 10 years after his visit to Suffolk, around the time of his first published work, the song Lyndon Lee. Felix Mendelssohn visited England 10 times and became very good friends with Thomas Attwood, the composer and organist of St. Paul's Cathedral, and with Attwood's sons, George, who for some 50 years was rector of Framlingham Church, and William, the rector of Gosbeck. According to the autobiography of Lindley Nunn, who was the organist here at the Tower and choirmaster at Ipswich School for some 30 years in the middle of the 19th century, Mendelssohn almost certainly visited Framlingham quite a few times. And it's odd to think of this celebrated composer trundling up what is now the A12 in his carriage, probably stopping off at a coaching inn at Ipswich, and who knows, perhaps even trying out the organ here in the church. Mendelssohn wrote the overture to A Midsummer Night's Dream when he was just 17, and he returned to the play some 16 years later for a staging of it in Potsdam. The lovely nocturne, arranged here by the composer and pianist Moritz Moskowski, makes a beautiful solo piano number, retaining all the charm of the original orchestral version. Henry Balfour Gardiner wrote 3 Shakespeare songs, of which Winter is perhaps the best known. Although it wasn't published until 1912, he actually composed it in 1908, the same year as his famous choral masterpiece, Evening Hymn, that you may have heard being sung here or elsewhere. It's fortunate that the song escaped the destruction of so much of his music, for he was ruinously self-critical. Winter is a rollicking winter's tale in which you can almost hear the country folk stamping their feet, blowing on their hands, while Greasy Joan keels or stirs a pot of hissing crab apples. John Ireland wrote nearly 100 songs, but only 2 to a Shakespeare text. And this one dates from the same year as Winter. Like Balfour Gardiner, Ireland is perhaps best known for a choral piece, his anthem, Greater Love, or maybe for being the composition teacher of the young Benjamin Britten at the Royal College of Music. Eric Coates was a student at the Royal Academy of Music from 1906 to 1908, and from the outset insisted that he wanted to write light music. Despite the shadow of the First World War, the 1916 tercentenary of Shakespeare's death was celebrated in some style, and Coates' setting of Sigh No More Ladies, dated the 9th of May 1916, was written for a performance of Much Ado About Nothing at the Royal Academy of Music, where Coates had returned as a professor. Coates dedicated the song to someone called Acton Bond, who had run the drama department at the Academy and who led the British Empire Shakespeare Society since 1901. A few years later, in February 1923, Acton Bond would direct some Shakespeare scenes for what would be the very first drama production anywhere in the world to be heard on a certain newfangled invention called the radio.
When icicles hang by the wall and Dick the shepherd blows his nail and Tom as logs into the hole and milk comes frozen home in pail. When blood is nipped and ways we found, then night he sings the staring owl to a merry note while Greasy Joan doth kill the pot. When all about the wind doth blow and coughing drowns the parson's swore and birds it brooding in the snow and Marion's nose looks red and raw. When roasted crabs hiss in the bone, then nightly sings the staring owl to a merry note while Greasy Joan doth kill the pot. When daffodils begin to peer with hay the doxy over the dale, why then comes in the sweet of the year, for the red blood reigns in the winter's pale. The white sheet bleaching on the hedge with hay, the sweet birds, oh, how they sing, doth set my pugging tooth on edge, for a quart of ale is a dish for a king. Chants with hay, the thrush and the jay, are summer songs for me and my aunts, while we lie tumbling in the pathway, and merrily, merrily hangs the stile. A merry heart goes all the day, your sad tires in a mile. A merry heart goes all the day, your sad tires in a mile.
In The Merchant of Venice, Bassanio wishes to marry Portia, but to do so, he must choose correctly between 3 small caskets made of gold, silver, and lead. The words of fancy are a cleverly disguised set of clues. Head, bread, nourished, all rhyme with the word lead. Bassanio's wise choice eventually proves Shakespeare's aphorism, all that glisters is not gold. Britten's breathless setting was written in response to Marion, Countess of Harwood's request for contributions to a volume she was editing called Classical Songs for Children. She persuaded fellow composers Zoltan Kodály and Francis Poulenc, with his only song in English that we'll hear shortly, to produce settings of the same text, and it's fascinating to see just how varied the 3 creations are. Poulenc, incidentally, disliked visiting the seaside and was intensely uncomfortable in the cold and dreary Aldborough during his only visit there in 1956. But he and Britten were nonetheless good friends. He dedicated this decidedly un-English setting to Miles and Flora, the child characters in Britten's opera The Turn of the Screw. Britten's song was written on the 9th of May, 1961, 45 years to the day since Eric Coates wrote Sigh No More Ladies that we heard earlier. How music evolved over that time. We began this concert with a poem not written by, but inspired by Shakespeare, and we end with another of dubious attribution. The printer and publisher William Jaggard released his anthology The Passionate Pilgrim in 1599 and assigned the 21 poems within to a W. Shakespeare. But only 5 are now considered with any certainty to be by him. Some experts are convinced that crabbed age and youth is authentically Shakespearean, while others believe it may be by the English balladist Thomas Deloney. Whatever the real story, the composer Madeline Dring, who had studied with Howells and Vaughan Williams at the Royal College of Music, was inspired by the text to write this charming song that was found amongst her papers after her death. She was but one of the numerous composers over more than 4 centuries who have set Shakespeare's timeless words to music.
Tell me, where is fancy bred? Or in the heart or in the head? How be got how nourished? Reply. It is engendered in the eyes with gazing fed, and fancy dies in the cradle where it lies. Let us all ring fancies ne'er. I begin it. Ding dong bell, 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 ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong Tell me, where is fancy bred? Or in the heart, or in the head? How begot, how nourished? Reply. It is engendered in the eyes with gazing fed, and fancy dies in the cradle where it lies. Let us all ring fancies ne'er. I begin it. Ding dong bell, ding dong bell, ding dong bell, ding dong bell, ding dong Rabid age and youth cannot live together. Youth is full of pleasance, age is full of care. Youth like summer morn, age like winter weather. Youth like summer brave, age like winter bare. Youth is full of sport, age's breath is short. Youth is nimble, age is lame. Youth is hot and bold, age is weak and cold. Youth is wild and age is tame. Age, I do abhor thee. Youth, I do adore thee. Oh, my love is young. Age, I do defy thee. Defy thee. Oh, sweet shepherd, Think'st thou stay'st to